Good evening, everybody out there. Welcome back to another edition of Eye2Eye Live. It's our weekly Disney hangout where we get here on Monday nights and we just hang out for a little bit and talk about everything in the world of Disney. My name is Kyle. I am part one of the dynamic duo that is Eye2Eye Disney Through Our Eyes. The other half being Jessica. She is my wife and the better half, if we're all honestly speaking tonight. But so this is the first one we have done on a Monday night in quite some time. And I know a lot of you that have showed up before for the live portion of these shows and maybe on the replay have been wondering where these have been. Well, it's just been a little bit hectic with everything that's going on in the world, work schedules and things like that. But I think we're finally ready to be back in the saddle and doing these a little bit more regularly. At least I'd like to. And to talk about Disney news and stuff for you. We might be gearing this more towards Disney parks related stuff in the future. Not really sure. We're kind of thinking through that process right now. But so that's what we're going to be doing tonight, is talking a little bit of anything out there that's Disney newsworthy. But tonight I do have one topic specifically in mind that I'd like to address or talk about, and maybe hopefully hear from you out there a little bit as well. And that is the topic of, I brought this up at the cue card at the very beginning, Disney Springs reopening. Now, I was thinking about covering this last week, but we were unable to go live for various reasons. Again, depending on the schedule and things like that. But I would love to talk about the, I won't call them restrictions, but guidelines is a better word, that are being placed for Disney Springs operation now, how that might translate on over to Disney parks and so on and so forth as we start to get things back towards normal here. So that's what we're going to be discussing, but anything and everything is up for grabs tonight if you'd like to discuss it. Now, that being said, let me say hello to a couple people that are, or at least are watching live currently or may have been. Jake Griffins was there. He says, "I can't join today. Have to sleep." He wrote it in several different comments. Well, thank you for stopping by, at least Jake Griffins. I really appreciate you popping in at least for a second. Captain Akron is here. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here. You are one of our loyal trivia night people, so glad to see you pop on over here as well to hang out with me just a little bit tonight. So that's the main thing. If you are watching this live, I'd love to know who I'm talking to, who I'm hanging out with. If you'll do us a huge favor by please making sure you smash that like button as we get going here tonight. So our goal is we'll probably be done in about 7:30-ish. I always say ish because if we're on a good little tangent, I like to stay with it. But we'll just see what happens tonight overall. Let's talk a little bit about that topic. Captain Akron, Jake, anybody that's here watching, how does everyone's impressions of this phased reopening, what is everybody's impressions of it? Is it the right way to go about it? Is it a little bit slow? Is it a little too fast? I think we could all have that conversation without too many hurt feelings. I know that most people in social media and the news can't really get along when it comes to talking about controversial topics, but I think we can all maybe have a honest and real conversation about this tonight. But so I'd love to hear your opinions about that. But here, I'll give you some of the guidelines, and I've got their website pulled up here. Their first headline in this is, "We're all in this together." I mean, leave it to Disney to make sure they work in one of their Disney songs and taglines in there. I mean, that's just great stuff right there. So they have what it looks like on this outline that I'm looking at right here. Excuse me, I'm trying to drink out of my water because it's hot in here tonight. 6 points that they have for this. JM, what's going on, man? Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Limited parking and reduced entrances, temperature screenings prior to entry, face coverings required for everyone, physical distancing and capacity measures, operational changes, increased focus on cleanliness. So that looks like it's their main 6 points and how they're going about opening up Disney Springs. And I think it's a good test model for how they're going to open up the rest of the parks, at least. So when we saw this open up last Wednesday, that's why I was kind of hoping to do this topic last Monday before it opened up, so we could see what we thought. But I guess in hindsight, it's good to have this to kind of analyze now that it actually has opened up. But we'll see here. Captain Akron, let's see what he said. Looks like it's not exactly busy yet. Let's see when Disney stores open. So yeah, I think that's one of the big things here, is that whether it's because of fear, responsibility, and I like to think the best of people, and I think that everybody was making their own choices and deciding that maybe it wasn't the right time for them personally to go out and be active and things like that. Yeah, I think that showed right there that at least when it comes to a shopping district, people used a little bit of discretion. If they probably were prone to being susceptible to this virus, then maybe they stayed home. And I think for the most part, we saw a ton of our fellow Disney vloggers and YouTube media personalities out there doing their due diligence to cover the opening and stuff like that. And I saw a lot of social media, again, is a wonderful thing, where there was bickering and bantering. You shouldn't go because you're just contributing to the problem, or it's my responsibility. There was all this kind of stuff. I think honestly we all just need to just relax a little bit and let people make their own decisions and what they feel comfortable with, and accept the rewards and responsibilities no matter which way it goes on this one. But it looks like for the most part that everybody is exercising caution in some form for whatever reason. Let's see here. JM, do you think Disney will put shows like Modern Family on Disney Plus? I haven't watched Modern Family myself. That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, for the most part, I think they've kept a lot of the ABC type of stuff. And I believe that's on ABC, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that they want them still to be almost separate entities. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if way down the line, just like many other things, they'll add that into the thing. If it's a Disney property, they have every right to. So sure, you'll probably see it there at some point, but maybe not for a while. It's usually a while before series and TV shows that didn't originate on a streaming platform make it in there because of negotiations and rights and all that kind of stuff. Interesting question. I hadn't really thought about that one. And by the way, love that cat picture. It almost looked like my cat for just a little bit there. Captain Akron says, WDW, Walt Disney World, should be looking more to Shanghai for help at what's working and how to move forward. I think what's great about collaboration is you can find things that do and don't work from anybody's example. I think everybody has done things right in some aspect, maybe not in some area, in some places, maybe not as well, but everyone has to kind of do what's best for them. And I think that you can, so for instance, for your example, I think Disney World can look to Shanghai and say, okay, what worked for you guys? Great, let's take some of that. What didn't work for you as well? Because I don't want to sit here and raise one entity over the other and say they're handling it better, because it's completely different situations, completely different populations, cultures. All of that plays into this virus and its effects on Disney parks. So I do think that you can look for examples of what you may be able to kind of use to help make your decisions for Walt Disney World and Disneyland. But I wouldn't say necessarily that they are the model to go with on this one. It's just one of those things, I think, that it's not going to apply wholesale over to the top there. James Ryan is in the house. What's going on, my man? Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Also, they should see how Universal is opening goes as well. So that's another interesting thing here as well, Akron, is that Universal's stepping on out there and saying, hey man, we're opening it up. Let's do this thing. I think probably some of that comes from while they are financially well off enough to run theme parks and movie studios similar to Disney, I would bet that they're not as well off as Disney. I mean, when you own Star Wars, Marvel, Disney Animation, Pixar, ABC, ESPN, I'm going to keep turning my head because I would keep naming some things here. You've got a lot of things that bring in revenue, or some that drain you revenue too. So it's one way to look at it. So yeah, I think their decision is probably based on finances, but also getting out ahead of the thing. You know, there's been some states that have decided that they were going to be a little bit more aggressive with their reopening, and depending on who you ask and who you watch, you'll hear 5,000 different stories about why it's not working or why it is working. So, you know, this is the type of thing that's going to be scrutinized and criticized before everyone's looks at it for collaboration reasons and things like that. So, yeah, Universal, it'll be a good benchmark to see what happens. And I think Disney's in a position where they can let the little brother across the street decide to try some things before they do. What about everybody else who's been popping in right now? Would you feel comfortable? Let's not say right now. Let's say you had a Disney trip planned for we'll say the beginning of July. How about that? That gives us, you know, a month now. 2 months. I don't want to do that far away. Let's just we'll do July. Sorry, I was kind of working through it in my head over there. What if you had a trip July 1st and these implementations are carrying over from Disney Springs to Disney Parks, and you want to still go on that trip? Would you still feel safe going on the trip? If nothing got worse, everything kind of stayed the same, would you feel safe with the precautions that Disney's put forth at Disney Springs for Disney Parks? I think that's a worthy conversation of having there. Captain Akron says, I live near Springs. If you live near Springs, would you have gone this week if you had time? Probably for one quick little trip, because I'm tired of being around my house. I mean, really, it amounts to that. You know, I have the benefit of, again, when I say what I'm about to say, I am not speaking for any medical professional out there, especially Jessica. And I am not a medical professional, but I won't say inside information, but I'm able to look. I have a lot of information to take in to make judgments and decisions for myself. From what I know about everything that's going on, especially in our particular region at our particular time, and you know, I would have said yes, I would have gone. I wouldn't have stayed long. You know, what I've been doing mainly when I've had to go out to the store or things of that nature during this is I've made a judgment call. A, was it a necessity? Obviously, sorry, knocked the microphone around a little bit. B, was it, can I go to a place or at a time where there's not a lot of people? So I went to Walmart last week for a quick run. It wasn't a necessity at this point, but it was something that I did need to get eventually. I walked in with my mask not on, ready to go. I looked at how many people had parked, went in and walked in and saw how busy it was. Everybody was spread out and nobody was, you know, kind of getting in each other's space. It wasn't very crowded. So just like everybody else, I made the decision I wasn't going to put my mask on. That's not out of a lack of respect for everybody else. It wasn't required to do it there. I just felt comfortable knowing what I know about the situation and everything else, that I wasn't doing anything wrong or they weren't doing anything wrong. So I say all that to say I would have looked at the situation. Was Disney Springs going to be busy? So I wouldn't have gone probably on day one. Now, if I was a Disney vlogger and that was my full-time job, maybe I would go. I don't know. That's kind of, when it's your livelihood, that's a whole different story there that plays into that. And people's livelihoods have been affected one way or another by this. Some much, much more worse than others. We are very blessed that we have not been affected too much by it, and I do want to be sensitive to those that have. So yes, I would have gone, but probably not day one, and I would have really looked at the situation to see how busy it was, and was I putting as few people at risk as possible if I were a carrier for it. So there you go. That's my thought process on it. James says, I think Universal has a much easier time aside from the garage, the train between Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley. They do not have to transport and move people between 4 parks and 2 water parks. Great point, James. I think that's an excellent point about this, is that smaller scale means smaller problems. More money, more problems is essentially what it means. Yeah, when you've got a monorail, buses, Skyliner, all circulating within Disney Springs, 4 parks, a couple dozen resorts and hotels, and just it could be, I'm not saying it would be, I don't want to promote fear here, but it could be a cocktail of stuff that you don't really want. But Universal has got a very much, not a streamlined function there, but a more streamlined, just because of their amount of stuff there. Captain Akron says, I wouldn't go. I would want to see how it play out. Fair enough. And I think that's the beauty here, is that you have the freedom and the choice to make that. And if you feel like it's not safe for yourself or others for you to do that, I'm glad that you took that personal responsibility, if in this hypothetical situation you did that. James says, I'm going when they open. I have been moving a reservation in intervals since it closed. We have done the same thing. Forgive me if we get a little pop off the water there. We moved actually pretty far back, not because of the virus, but just because of time and schedules. What we think our schedule is going to look like down the road. Who knows these days? But yeah, we had to move it once and then actually move it back another. Sorry, I've got something on my mouth there. We had to move it back another time. And because of some other thing got rescheduled and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there are scary, real things about this, but I'm one that I don't like to promote fear. I like to promote your personal responsibility, but not fear. All right, well, let's look about this a little bit deeper here. Face coverings are going to be required at Disney Springs. Do you think that they are going to require them in the parks? I would think if Disney Springs is the testing ground for this, then yes, they are going to probably, if they can require them there, then they can require them somewhere else. Now, you can make the point that Disney Springs has the capacity for more fluid and flexible inflow from all different regions, whereas into a park, everyone's kind of coming through one gate and exiting through one gate. There's not this area that they can come in, and this area, well, Epcot there is, and then there's not as much in and outflow, at least from all different places, as there is through Disney Springs. More people, but not as much. So there's that as well. But would you want to wear these face coverings? Can you stand it in the Florida heat? That's the thing I'm worried about. At my work, I work outside, and we have to wear these face coverings because it's company policy. And it is difficult, but it's something that we are happy to do to make our guests very comfortable in this situation. Rachel Loves Disney and Alyssa Sternberg are here. Nice to see you guys. Welcome. Thanks for being in. We're just talking about the Disney Springs opening and some of their requirements and precautions that they've taken to help people feel safe and comfortable going. But yeah, let's see here. So you're going to have they have temperature checks that they're doing. Guests with temperatures of 100.4 and above will not be allowed entry. With the temperature, I'm not a medical person. I don't think there's any adverse effects to them doing the little thing, scanning your forehead and seeing if there's anything going on there. So if that's what it takes for me to get into a Disney park, so be it. Scan my forehead away. I got a lot of forehead here for them to scan. I think this is a very fair and simple thing to do. You stand there for about the same amount of time to scan your little finger in, and and scan your magic band to get in. You can stand there for 2 more seconds for them to essentially point a gun at your head and and take your temperature, is what it feels like at times. Mouse Talk is here. It was good to see you, Walt. I hope Melissa's there as well. It says, I will be there the day they open. I'll wear the mask if necessary, but I'd rather not. They said it's difficult to wear it over a long period of time. So I think that's a great point, Walt. I think that that's the difficult thing here, is you want to gauge guests' you're trying to balance as a business guest satisfaction with safety, and there's this tightrope that you have to walk here. The thing is if you require people to wear it the entire time, you're making some people susceptible to passing out, and especially those that maybe have respiratory issues as is and things like that. And that, I think, is where you kind of have to, we live in a world where everybody will sue anybody at the drop of a hat, and that's a very sad thing. And that's why companies have to be so cautious about these things. I'm all for the thing of you sign a waiver, you come in, you lose all those rights. Now, I know that's a very broad statement. I'm not saying none of that suing thing happens at the point, because you're making the choices to be there. You have the knowledge. As long as they warn you and say, hey, this is what you're dealing with. That's kind of the way I think about that. James says, I agree with Walt. I'll wear the mask if required. If the language says should, as suggested by the CDC, I will not. Fair, and I think that's a very fair way to look at it. If it is required, as in that's the wording, if you want to go, you got to play by their rules. But if it should, I'm going to take one, as I did in my scenario. For those of you that weren't here, I was telling the scenario of me being in Walmart, a marketplace Walmart, so not as many people, and making the decision that based off the amount of people that are there, the crowding situation of the area I was in the store, and going in and leaving quickly, did I need to wear one? And my judgment was no. I was not putting anybody at risk, and they were not putting me at risk either. So I think it's all those things that you need to do what feels right for you, but you don't need to force it on someone else. Now, a company on their private property can say, do this, or you don't get in. That's their property, Mouse Talk, or Walt says, safety is always in the eye of the beholder. What one person deems safe, another will not. And I think that's the beauty and the great thing of living in such a diverse and unique country as ours, is that we have so many different opinions, which sometimes isn't great. We have so many different belief systems, cultures, backgrounds, ideas, dreams. That's the beauty of it, but sometimes it's the damaging. It's when we get in, and I'm not trying to get on my soapbox here, but it's when we get to the point where we try to force our stuff on someone else. That's where I have a problem with that. So that's the thing. Follow the rules if you're going on private property to someone's business, but if it should, make your own informed decision. James says, somewhat ironic that masks are required in the name of safety, but they did not abandon fingerprint identification. Come on, man. I didn't know that they hadn't abandoned that. I guess, but they don't do that at Disney Springs, though. Do they? I thought they weren't doing that at Disney Springs. Do they do that somewhere that I don't know about? They may adjust that going forward. We may be going back to the old keys to the kingdom type of thing, or just scanning the magic band and that's it. I think Disney's going to have to make a few adjustments on some of their things that they do, but we'll see what happens here. So we talked about the mask, we talked about the temperature checks, limiting people. That's where it gets tough. Can you imagine the lines that form at, let's use Seven Dwarfs Mine Train? That thing's 60 minutes plus all day, every day. Can you imagine how long it's going to be when you can only have so many people, so many, times together? They're going to have to move every queue to the rise of resistance type of situation, where they limit the amount of people, and then most people are just spread out throughout the park. It's going to be crazy. But they announced they would not at the parks, but they didn't. So they said no, but they announced they would not at the parks. So I guess if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying they're still going to do finger identification. They have their reasons. It's their property. If you don't feel comfortable being there to do that, then that's just kind of the right you have to give up to be on their physical property. I'm looking out here because it looks like it is about to come down. So I hope our connection stays fine here. It's those beautiful summer rains in the southeast that we love so much, which means that if it's raining here, it's probably still raining in Florida down there. But yeah, limiting people, limiting parking, that's going to be the tough one. Scanning your forehead for a temperature, asking people to wear a mask is one thing. Changing your cleaning policies that are in place or something that only affects your staff for the most part. Operational changes as well. Limiting parking, people, spacing, that's the tough one. That's the tough one there, which is why I'm also in favor of the thing of you come in here, you waive your rights to sue us because you're acting on your own behalf and your own decisions. I'm a big fan of personal responsibility. Personal responsibility not meaning that you are only looking out for yourself, but that you are a mature adult who can make wise, informed decisions, and you get to live by those decisions and those consequences and things like that. I'm trying not to get on my soapbox tonight, but I feel like I am. The point is this, though. I hope that Disney Springs phased opening here is going to continue to prove successful for them. I hope they learn some things from this that they can apply to the opening of the parks, whether that be 1 park, 2 park, 3 parks at a time, how many resorts they open up. I mean, when you close down an operation the size of Walt Disney World, that takes a long time to reopen, especially when there's a lot of fear and anxiety out there. And I think one of the things that we should do, I'm going to get on my soapbox one more time, I promise, that's it. One of the things that we can do as neighbors, as fellow citizens of the United States, is to not fear monger each other. And I'm not speaking in terms of like political, social dynamics. I believe in the power of being positive but not being Pollyanna and saying everything's going to be all right. I think you can easily say this is a very serious situation. We've learned a lot since then, and we should be encouraging each other to be smart, but also not being judgmental of others for the decisions they make that they feel like they are informed to make. That's the great thing about living in such a free country here, is that we all can have our own opinions, whether they're right or wrong, and operate off those assumptions. All right, soapbox, throwing it away. It's done now. It's over with. Any other thoughts or comments or questions? It can be anything Disney related. Today is Goofy's birthday. Today's Memorial Day, so real quick, I want to thank the families out there who have had loved ones pass away in the service of our country. This day each year is one bittersweetness in honoring them, but also remembering those that we've lost in service to our country. So for those family members out there that have lost a loved one in the line of duty, our hearts continue to go out to you, and we hope and pray that you are finding some comfort on this day, knowing that everyone around this nation is honoring your sons, your daughters, your husbands, wives, and can spread that out even further there in descriptors. But so I hope everybody's taking some time to remember that on Memorial Day. And if there's anything else you want to drop in real quick, I do have a couple of announcements for you, and I meant to do these at the beginning of the show, getting back in the swing of things. So here's a couple of announcements for you. Oh, James says, okay, I don't disagree about personal responsibility, but what about kids? They depend on parents for a waiver. That's let me get my thoughts here together about that. The parents are responsible for the kids. It's their responsibility to make those decisions the best that they can, and that's all you can do. That's my 5-second analysis of that question and answering it. If I took some time to maybe sit back and think about it, I might have a different answer, but that would just be kind of my way of going about things right here. All right, a couple of announcements as we get out of here tonight. Let me make sure I have the correct ones on here. Here we go. If you haven't, please do make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live or upload a video. We have our trivia night coming up this Thursday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, if you are looking for ways to support our channel, here are a couple of suggestions for you. Obviously, watching our videos is a great way to support us. We do have a Patreon campaign, patreon.com/i2idisney, where you can sign up and we'll be adding some perks there. We're also taking PayPal donations, and we have a TeePublic store available if you'd like to get yourself some merch. That is a way that you can help financially support our content and help us create better content for you. If you haven't, please do come join our Facebook group, Disney Through Your Eyes, where we hang out, talk Disney stuff, share pictures, questions, just be one big old happy Disney family. And those are the announcements that I have for you. Oh, one other thing. I don't have the card available for you, but there is a TeePublic sale going on right now. So if you go over to our store, teepublic.com/i2idisney-merch, I think is I got to change the title on that thing. It's 35% off, so you can get some stuff there if you want to help support the channel. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you will be back next Monday. Again, I'm back on my regular schedule with work, so I should be able to maintain these from now on. Of course, there'll be things that come up here and there on Monday nights. I'm hoping we're going to have a guest on this show, someone that I've been friends with for a while in the Disney space, and been looking forward to maybe having him be on here to share what he's been doing in the Disney space. So make sure you come back. We'll be talking probably some more Disney park stuff. So I hope you guys are having a great Memorial Day. I hope you're staying safe and staying healthy. Be here Thursday night for Trivia Night. And until we assemble again, may the Force be with you, and we'll see you real soon.